good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Alex Drake, and I'm with the Auburn Hills Chamber of Commerce. I'm the graphics and marketing manager here. We are excited to be hosting the You Can Have a Winning Brand series of webinars here with Identity Creative. We hosted a series with them last fall, and it was phenomenal. We were excited to have them back again. We have Bill and Linda Kleist joining us today. They are founders of Identity Creative. All right, and with that, Bill and Linda, I will turn it over to you to start your presentation.
Super. First, we want to thank the Chamber, Auburn Hills, and the great work that you guys do. Alex, you are on top of it. We've been members for years. We've seen a lot of Chamber presidents, and Gina's just tops. So she has built a great team, and that you've been around so long with her working is just another testament to just you guys make a really great cohesive team. So we appreciate working with you, being part of the Chamber, and this opportunity too.
Thank you so much for those kind words, Linda.
Yeah. So if anyone's on this call and not a member, join. I think you are all members. So let's see if we can get this slide moving here. Today we want to go over what we're going to cover very quickly. And indicators, it's time to, 5 indicators, it's time to rebrand your business. Every time I move this, sorry. You're changing your name, your logo looks outdated or amateurish, your offerings or markets have changed. I'm flying through this now. We'll go slower. Your business is transitioning and you have unprofessional brand identity system. That system part is really important. And 4 red flags when it's not time to rebrand your business. So Tiffany, this is really going to be important to you. The owner or CEO is not 100% on board. Your branding is on impulse. Your key decision makers are too busy and there's no budget for an effective launch. And then finally, we want to go over what to look for in a creative partner to make sure you get the right fit. So back to Mike's original point, what is a brand? We like to start here to get everybody on the same page, because we'll hear people say, I got to get my brand on the pen or mug. We need some branded products, which is accurate. Or the 3 major automotive brands are making this move. Well, that's not just a logo. So what is a brand? And most of us know it, but just to get everyone on the same page, a brand it's both tangible and intangible, the tangible and intangible pieces of your business. So it's also how people see and feel about your business after they've experienced working with you, your business or your organization, if you happen to be a college. So the tangible pieces are our logo, our brick and mortar, our wearables. There's those tangible pieces of the brand. And then there's the intangible. It comes from our culture. It comes from the way people talk to us and the process that we put clients through or customers through as they do business with us. So all of those things create that brand experience. So let's just look at an example. You can shoot it out on mute. What are you thinking right now? What does this look like?
McDonald's.
Yeah.
D's.
It's
We need to show less of it, Linda, I think.
it's a powerful, it's been around forever, so it's a great one to show, the curvy yellow French fries. And when we were back, when doing, maybe we're getting there soon to the in-person presentations, we would have a room full of people and ask people to raise their hands if they had an overall positive feeling about the brand. And won't do that now just for time's sake, but depending on the crowd, maybe a few people would raise their hand, say yes, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's pretty closer to 10, it's favorable. And then maybe more people would raise their hands that it's less favorable, their feelings about McDonald's. So we would look around the room and say, there's brand equity, or the brand is suffering right here in this room. There's no McDonald's wrappers, there's no McDonald's building. but the McDonald's brand experience is being reflected in this room. So the people at HQ at McDonald's, they are concerned about that brand equity in the room. How can we improve it? So they can do things with the tangible pieces of their brand. They can tell every franchisee, you need to invest $300,000 into your location. It's got to be updated, and here's the requirements, because we are going to be a forever young brand. That's what McDonald's is going to be. When we do coffee, we're going to do it through testing, because we're going to do coffee right. We're not going to put something on the menu that's not going to stick. So those are the intangible and tangible pieces of the brand. Does that make sense so far? Covering that? Okay. Let's go a little bit further. I think it helps to put it into a context for our small business or our organization. So if we look at the analogy of a brand is your business or organization is like a person in this way. So you have a name and a face that identifies you. That's not the only thing about your brand identity as an individual. You also have a style, a personality. You have core values that drive your behavior or that you ignore and get in trouble in your behavior. All of us can do it. We have value that we bring. Every person has value that they bring. Oops. So the same is true with a business. Your business, your organization is identified by its name and its face. The face of your business is your logo. And then your company organization has a style and a personality, core values, and the value that you bring. So those are the intangible pieces. And we're going to get more into that in session 2. How do you identify those intangibles? How do you manage those intangibles? So when we talk about a brand identity, if you are networking or going somewhere and you see somebody in a room full of people that you know, what is your immediate reaction? You've identified them maybe across the room by their face, you know their face, or you hear their name. Is it a positive feeling that you get like, oh, I want to go talk to that person? Or is it a negative, oh, every time I talk to them, they dominate the conversation and I'm going to just kind of mosey this way? Those are the intangible pieces, how they make you feel. So any thoughts or questions? Okay. Let's just do a fun participation.
Quickly.
Okay. Princeton University researchers asked respondents whether they could trust a person just based on their face. So they would put pictures of strangers on a conveyor belt and let them judge whether they could trust a person based on their face. So what they found was that people were making pretty quick decisions. And what do you think it took for them to make that decision, whether they could trust a stranger or not? How long?
5 seconds.
That's very generous. It was 1/10 of a second.
Wow.
So we call that a blink of an eye. And then they were given the opportunity to go back and change their minds if they wanted to, but overwhelmingly they didn't, because our first impressions are powerful. They're lasting impressions. So let's do it together. If this is your conference room and the walls need a paint job, seriously, they're all hacked up. It's Friday afternoon and you have VIP prospects coming in on Monday morning. You need it painted over the weekend. You need to call somebody and you have a choice of 2 companies. The only information you have is their face. So do you trust this company or this company? Which one? So you can just throw it out there.
The second.
I'm going with the purple.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm going partially because it says commercial, residential, industrial. Mark 6 painting. I don't know what they do. They paint cars.
that's good. And when we're smaller brands. We're not global brands that can just put a Target sign out there. We need to let people know immediately what we do. So that's a descriptor.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, kind of, I don't know. I mean, those words are pretty big. They cover a lot of things, but at least, I guess a commercial, because we're talking about the conference room, right?
Yep.
And so that would be commercial. Okay, good. They do what I need done. Or they have
A lot of information, right? You got the information you needed in a blink of an eye.
Yeah. Yep.
Other thoughts? It really, we've shown this, it's an example we use, we've shown it to hundreds of people in different presentations. We just stick with it, it's easy. It's actually interesting to see people get fiery and passionate about their opinions about this. I remember one woman standing up, she goes, that company on the left, they're likely gonna have rusty paint trucks in my parking lot, and I don't want that. Yeah, they might be cheaper, but this is my conference room. And others, I have confidence that company on the right can do it. It's also kind of cool that there's a surprise like negatives in the negative space. It's a Roman numeral 6 and a letter M for Mark 6. It's actually a before and after of a company. So what we like to point out, we could do that. We'll do that more in the next section, the technical reasons why the one on the left does not work and why the one on the right does.
And Linda, this is John. I was just gonna comment that visually, it just sends a message of being more exacting, concise, sharp edges, which if you're hiring a painter, that's a characteristic that you're looking for, regardless of what the job entails.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Good point.
The idea being, look at what is communicated just through a company's logo. So it's very powerful. And then we talk about what is branding. We talked to a large degree about that, but we want to hone in on the 2 goals of branding. This is how we see it at Identity Creative. First, to build trust. No one will give you $1 if they don't trust you. And Marty Neumeier is like the grandfather of modern branding. And he said, trust is the ultimate shortcut to a buying decision. It's the bedrock of modern branding. That's why reviews are so huge, because you trust a third-party source more than a company saying, we do good work. And then the other one is to be remembered. How are people going to remember you when they're ready to buy or they need your services? They may have seen you on a truck, they may have seen you on a sign, they may have popped next to your website, but we get distracted right away. So for a brand to survive and thrive, it must build an identity that differentiates it from its competition. And that's by Jack Trout. Maybe you've heard of Jack Trout. That book, Differentiate or Die, is still a great read. If we don't put ourselves in one place, especially now with like coaching, you've got coaching, John, right? We're a global search firm. How do we not narrow necessarily by an industry, but how do we let people know exactly what we do so that it will stick in their minds? So what we want to do now is move into the signs. It's time to rebrand. So Bill, do you want to take over here?
I just also want to say these are not exhaustive. I mean, these are just in our years of doing this. We kind of boiled them down into these kind of 5 categories that will drive, or at least when that epiphany takes place and people realize, hey, we got to do something. So yeah, the first indicator, if you're changing your business name, it's kind of a given. Sometimes people can't avoid it. We have clients who were facing a cease and desist because they happened to be using a name that there was a conflict of interest. Somebody else had registered the name, so they needed to change. They had no choice. They needed to change their name. So that creates an interesting approach. First of all, sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes it makes the most sense in the world, but we like to really counsel those who are looking to change their name to exhaust every opportunity to try to retain their current name, because if they've been on the internet for any length of time, they've built an organic search results that accumulates over time. Plus, there's an equity in the eyes and ears of those prospects, and or rather the client base that they already have. So there has to be an educational process. Well, we changed our name from Identity Graphic Design to Identity Creative. We did it, and it made all the sense in the world to do it, because we were expanding into much more of a preliminary clarification phase for helping clients. But we suffered from an internet standpoint. Our search results, they dropped. We were getting calls probably a couple times a week. We would get calls from people finding us online. It went to nothing. And we're still rebuilding from that standpoint. So there's other ways to offset that. But anyway, Linda. So did you want to add on that, Linda, or any thoughts? Or
No, I think that's why it's so important to get a great name at the outset, so that it's not an obstacle. So when you go through that rebranding process, you think about where could this brand go. So if we are a company that does remodeling and we want to call it World of Kitchens, okay, could you ever go beyond doing just kitchens? So,
or would you want to?
yes, so to look at that. Here's an example of a great reason for a name change. If you look at the before, this startup, people couldn't read the name. And when they did, KD3 Works, what are you about? And she spent more time explaining what the name was and what the meaning behind the name, rather than talking about the benefits that she brings. So wait well, it's about your time. As soon as she said people struggling with cancer need better services, and she was approaching medical facilities, it resonated much more quickly, and she didn't spend time explaining the name. Here's another one. Pallett's Law Firm doesn't look like a major name change. For them, their attorneys, like, they scrutinize every little, this was a big deal for them to go from Pallett's Law Firm to Pallett's Law. But the reason to do that and the rebranding gets over to another reason that we have, and that was they were focusing their niche. So they wanted to go from being the all and everything attorneys to we are innovative landlord advocates. So we're doing landlord tenant law. That's it. Mm-hmm. And so they did that launch and saw a tremendous growth by creating that niche.
Some of these examples there will definitely be overlap in that. So,
mm-hmm. And if at any time you have a question you want to stop, let us know. So Midway Engravers went to Midway Rotary Die. So it's a descriptor. And Mike, you talked about seeing that descriptor in the Mark VI painting. So the technology had changed. This was another example of a company that a lot of these fit other reasons to rebrand. They saw an uptick in sales when they did this rebranding. They look like they're going somewhere.
If I can add too, Linda, engraving was really what they were referred to as, and it was a technology kind of like film is to photography. It transitioned into a completely different industry, and they really needed to move away from that big descriptor being engravers, because they were always called Midway Engravers. So now they became Midway Rotary. And yeah, as Linda said, when they did their introduction, the competition freaked out. Their clients were, it really had a tremendous impact in a reasonably short amount of time. Apparently 10 to 15% uptick in people coming to them for services. So.
All right, we'll keep moving, flying through. So another sign it's time to rebrand. Your logo looks outdated or amateurish. It's not distinctive or memorable. Can you see the toad? I love this picture.
Actually, he's a tree frog.
Oh.
Sorry.
Not so good at my reptile amphibians. So you could see some of those other examples we had fit still into this example. Executive Wealth Management, when they contacted us, the before logo you can see, it had been a pillar. They tried to quickly change it up. They added that mark at the top. When we asked what did that mean, they're like, we have no idea. We have no idea. This is just really old. And then the other part of that was the way it was laid out. People thought then, they just executive wealth. It didn't communicate what they wanted to communicate to the people they wanted to attract.
Mm-hmm. Before you go to the next one, Linda, too, the whole idea of people realizing, and you can go into Biscuit Bob's too, Linda, because that's people realize, or they get feedback from their client base, and they don't care. Where'd you get that logo? I mean, it's just when they start, there's a pride in authorship a lot of times, and people love their company as they grow the company. So it's the face of their company. And a lot of times it's like people come to the conclusion based on feedback from others. Yeah, where'd you get that logo? Or we haven't touched it since we've been in business, and it's been 10, 15 years. So, I mean, it's good to come take a reassessment. So that's where the amateurish, the outdated element comes in. But Linda, talk about Biscuit Bob's, because they're pretty.
Yeah, I could. And I think Tiffany too, you're coming in as a new marketing director. That is typically when it happens, because we get used to seeing our face in the mirror. It's like you walk into your house and you have that cluttered spot over there. It's good. You just get used to it. And then when someone new comes over, they're like, why is that there? Oh, wow, I didn't realize that. So fresh eyes on something often brings attention to the ownership, the leadership team. So the story behind Biscuit Bob's, Bob and Lena King, he's an engineer, he's a researcher, and she loves cooking. And they lost their precious little pup, got sick, and they were told it was because of the ingredients in this dog food brand that they were feeding him. So like, how could this be being sold? So he did the research, and they created these dog treats that were healthy, and dogs loved them. So they went to somebody, they got this logo. So we're going to create, that looks nothing like Bob. So this old guy became their avatar, I guess, Biscuit Bob's. And when they would take it, they were getting into like feed stores, local shops in that respect. And they did have a distribution, but they weren't getting new orders. And Lena asked why this was happening. And she was told it's because it's great when it's on a demo and people can give it to their dogs, but when they look at the bag, it doesn't convey anything that's compelling or that's something that they would getting back to trust. It's just, the bags are not selling. So they came to us after trying logos are cheapandfast.com and really looking at what is it about this company that's going to be distinctive. So the whole packaging thing we don't have in this presentation, but after they went through the rebranding and a new packaging, Bob King said this was motivational for us. It was a motivational logo. And they went to Super Zoo in Las Vegas. I don't know if you have ever heard of Super Zoo, but it is the trade show for animal products, pet products. And there were 1,500 trade show booths.
That was the new ones. There were more than that, but those were the new vendors. 1,500 new ones.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I did not know that. So
I'm pretty certain, but you can fact check me.
1,500, either way, it's a ton of booths to try and get attention. And we were getting texts when they were at the trade show, like, wow, TJ Maxx is interested in us. We talked with the guy from Purina. It just, as they're going by mom and pop shop looking things, and then they come to this beautiful presentation with these bags on the counter. And here's the thing, the guy from Purina, when Bob was trying to tell him about all the great ingredients in this product, the guy from Purina just held it. He goes, I don't really need to know what's in the bag. I know I can sell this bag. So I never buy Purina ever since for my dog. So that's getting back to the trust, building trust. Any thoughts or questions? Okay, we'll keep moving.
We got to wax less eloquent on
I
these,
love the
think.
stories. So your offerings or your markets have changed. So that it gets back to Pallett's Law. They were changing, they wanted to announce it. Another one, ICR, theirs also fits in the outdated. Here's another one, was Sterling Heights. They also fit in the outdated, but they had done a visioning goal for the year 2020 back when we did the rebranding for them. And they wanted to launch this new vision. So they wanted to say, hey, Sterling Heights is going places. And so we worked on the rebranding with them and the slogan for the city of Sterling Heights. And there's a really cool story on the meaning behind that logo, behind that symbol. We really love giving great meaning to symbols. So another,
the team, what you think that working for a city would be a nightmare, and that everybody was just collectively together with, it was just an amazing experience working with just these awesome people down there. So
What's the symbol stand for? Because I don't see, I don't know.
what it is, that line running through is kind of based on, first of all, Sterling Heights, if you've ever looked on a map, is almost a perfect square. And
Never looked at the map.
That form is called a Rayleigh triangle, and that triangle itself, this is just side note, will actually rotate in a square. But that white line represents the Clinton River that runs through Sterling Heights, and then it's also a lowercase h and an S, a letter form, and it runs through the both of them, and it also from an abstract standpoint is the thumb of kind of a crop of Michigan, within which you can also see, I mean, there is that Sterling Heights is in that lower area as well. But I mean, that was kind of an afterthought. That wasn't actually deliberate, but the idea.
So was this designed based on the city hall people's insight, or did they run this by anybody that lives in Sterling Heights?
They filled out a questionnaire. So we gathered information.
When you say they, the people at City Hall?
Yep, the state.
No.
The decision makers. No, not the state. Go ahead.
Well, they had done an extensive survey through the state. So they got funding to run a survey through the state. And then they wanted for the revisioning. So to do a rebranding, and that probably should be a red flag, that if you want to try and rebrand with a massive amount of people, you're not going to do it. It was the leadership. There were probably 12 people in that branding committee, but no, it was not all of city council.
No.
Someone on city council wanted to give it to maybe a high school competition, and that would not have been a good idea. So
no, that would be a good idea. Well, no, it's very progressive, and I think it's very nice, and it's all. And I'm just, I guess my perception of Sterling Heights would be changed if it's based on this. I'll leave it at that.
Well, now it will, right, Mike?
Well, between this and isn't the big golden circle in Sterling Heights?
no, and that's really kind of sad, because someone had said that didn't you guys do the logo for Sterling Heights? Why did you do a circle? We're like, it's not a circle. But yeah, they did that on M59. It's confusing.
That's Sterling Heights, right?
Yeah, but it's confusing. It's called like the golden circle. I don't know what that is.
Well, I mean, call it what you want, call it what it is. It's a bit progressive. You don't see those types of things.
Yeah.
The first time I saw it, I said, wow, it's a nice piece of art. I didn't know what it was or what it meant, but it was a nice piece of art. And I was like, okay, cool. And then now with this, okay, very good. Didn't mean to butt in, but
No, good stuff. Good
they're
question.
polishing. It looks like they're this beginning of a new coat of paint for the city, so to speak.
Well, Bill, when was this done?
2015.
So the circle is not a logo, and I'm not sure how that decision was put.
Yeah, they
out
haven't
there
brought
to
us in a whole lot since.
but no, the circle that you're talking about, that has created some confusion, which is really important to think about when you're building a brand architecture. So we did this rebranding for them and then we were gone. So
Yeah.
how they wanted to expand on that. One of the things when we talked about where do you want to go, and I mentioned like World of Kitchens, where could you go? So you want to think about how is this brand, what are the other pieces of this brand going to be? Do we want to have a parent brand and then create sub brands within that, like Virgin can have Virgin Airlines, Virgin Phone, Virgin whatever they want, and as long as they slap Virgin on it, it's
the brand.
it's going to win because Virgin has that brand equity. But if you're Kraft, you don't want to have Kraft bleach. No, so we want to have a house of brands. So how do you want to build that, and how does Sterling Heights want to? Branding to a large degree is also wayfinding. How do we help people understand who we are and if we're for them? If you look at a college, you've got different stakeholders. Maybe a coffee company if you're selling to individuals, and then commercial sales. So you have different target audiences. How do they know where they fit?
Right. No, I'm just saying that when I saw the big circle, I didn't even know that was Sterling Heights. I just thought, oh my God, that's very cool. You're in the middle of one-story retail hell on that stretch of 59. Getting in and out of the parking lots is nightmares. There's been this and that, and then all of a sudden this gigantic gold circle. I was like, whoa, cool. So I didn't equate that with a logo or anything other than somebody paid somebody a bunch of money to do some art. And I'm like, okay, I like that.
Yep. Okay, move along, Linda.
Yes, we're moving. So when it's time to rebrand, you're transitioning. So Bill, quickly, what are some of the ways that people are transitioning?
This is a big driver. If your business is growing, you say you were professionally branded, you had entity, but it's been several years, you knew that you needed to update things, and you're moving to a new location, going to invest 15 to 35,000 in a big sign. I mean, there's going to be investments. That is the time, because of the outlay, a good time to rebrand. If you are merging with another company, transitioning to a merger, you're now naturally you're going to be sharing who you are with somebody, and you need to re-articulate that. So that is another good reason to consider rebranding. And then if you're anticipating selling the business, a business is going to have a curb appeal from a buyer eventually, just as much as the ledger. If it looks professional, it has systems and processes in place, it's going to be much more attractive and glean a larger price than a business that has never been updated, because whoever's buying it obviously is going to recognize the importance of that, and they're going to need to make the investment if that's the case. So that's something else to think about. But those are what we look at as those three transitional elements. We got a couple examples, Linda, too. You might want to run through those.
I think we just did one example. So Augie's was moving locations. They also fit into the outdated, and this was a super busy logo that was impossible to embroider on shirts. So this is reflective of the abstract pieces of their brand, their core values.
Lowercase a.
Yep. The decisions to remove the apostrophe, a lot of things went back into this rebranding, how they're going to rebrand to target commercial businesses. And then the other indicator is, Bill mentioned it before, you don't have a brand identity system. So one of the important pieces of building trust is maintaining consistency in your look and everything, having that professional look. So we talk about that in the next session, building a brand identity system. Benito's Pizza, they franchised early and did not have a system for signage, for packaging, all the things that come in with the pizza chain. So we did a rebranding to build an identity system. We'll show you that in the next session. And then also Turner Electric was another example. There's no vector files for this. They didn't have standards. It was not communicating also that they were commercial electrician. So those are wrapping up the reasons when it's time to rebrand. Now here are the 4 red flags. It's not time to rebrand.
Yep.
So you may need it, but work on some of these before you get started so that you don't
Yeah.
encounter a nightmare.
These are serious too.
These are from our experience over the years. So when the owner or the CEO is not 100% on board, they're being dragged into it. We have said for years, we need all the decision makers in on this branding team. Whoever has veto power must be involved from the beginning, because there's a process. And especially if a company's been around for several decades, that owners, this is who we are, this is the face of our business. And you're gonna bring that owner in one day and go, how about we change our face to this or this or this? They're like, what? They have not been brought through that process to get them to that place where, yes, this is what we need to do. And these were concepts that fit what we're talking about.
They're good at what they do. They don't think about what they look like. They're just not there. That's normally where people are. When a new marketing director comes in, or somebody comes in who is a stakeholder, who is aware of what's going on in the world and the competitive environment, that's when they begin to have a heart-to-heart with the leadership. And eventually, you know, CEOs will come around, but I mean, it's got to be at the right time and in the right process.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
a biggie.
We've actually worked with marketing directors, other team members who wanted to do the rebranding, could see that it was necessary. Like, okay, let's just talk about it. Let's just kind of do a presentation about what this could mean for your business and talk about any fears you may have that people won't recognize you. And a lot of time that gets that on board. Or we'll say, let's just look at the abstract pieces of the brand. What is our mission, vision? What are our core values? What is our unique differentiator that we deliver consistently all the time? If you can't answer that and your sales team's not answering that consistently, then let's just do that. Let's just get those abstract pieces of the brand together. And then often when they get that, they're like, yeah, this does not reflect who we are. So there's a way to help bring them along, but you don't want to force them into it. It's not going to be pleasant, and they're not going to be on board. And it really can be an exciting and pleasant experience.
Which leads to the second one.
You're rebranding on an impulse. When it's really bad, like the executive wealth management, this doesn't look good. It's just this pillar. What is this pillar? So let's add a little symbol to the top of it. We had a great example. We worked with an insurance company. The marketing director had been there for a year, and it was a really outdated logo. Made them look like they're from the 1950s, a Michigan insurance company. And she said, I don't want to touch this until we're ready. I don't want to try and modernize it a little bit, because what you do is you get these different iterations on the face of your business, and that bruises your credibility. You don't look professional. It's better to be consistent with a weak brand than to be inconsistent with different variations on your company logo.
Good point.
Anything else to add to that one, Bill?
No, it can happen. It's just anything that you do rushed, generally, if common sense says it's going to end up falling short. So yeah, good.
All right, so the next one is when the key decision makers are too busy. I was sitting across the table from somebody who really needed a rebranding, and I was putting it off and putting it off. And he said to me, what are you, the anti-salesperson for your company? Like, I want to buy this. Well, yes, but you are an accounting firm and you're going into a very busy season. This is not the time to do it. In a rebranding, there's a lot of back and forth with it. So there's a lot of decisions that have to be made. Pete, you've been through it, right? So there's a back and forth with not just with the concepts, but with color, with how it's going to lay out in stationery, building out that system. What are the decisions that are looking forward to the future with the brand? So you want it to be, again, an energizing experience that creates momentum for the organization, like, hey, this is new. And also you want to be able to have time to bring in key stakeholders in that to some degree, the size of your organization. We've worked with small businesses of under 25 employees, and they have everybody fill out a questionnaire. They have everybody give some feedback so that they can know they've contributed to what this company is about. And that gets them excited and engaged as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't underestimate how important it is that everybody be on the same page. Any decision makers need to be on the same page. Kind of dovetails with the first one with the CEO, but anyway, last one then.
Yeah, one other thing too, and this goes with if you're working with a web company, any creative on that score, and there's that back and forth, we need approvals. When you're slow to get back to them with approvals, it hinders the momentum. Every time a creative has to, put something down, they want to get an answer back, and then you wait 2 or 3 weeks because you were busy, and they go, okay, now we want to do, we're thinking of this slogan or this slogan, but maybe this. I'm like, okay, well, let's get our heads back to where we were when we did this brainstorming. It really impacts the creative flow and the momentum. And we were working with a client who was, they had a complex website. They went to this web company, and they told me a few months later, they're really frustrated with their web company. But I knew this client. I said, are you by chance making them wait long periods of time before you get back to them? And they're like, yeah, but they take forever to get back to us now. Well, you kind of trained them to, you're slow to respond. It's not as a priority. So when you're too busy to make those kinds of decisions, that's what you're communicating to the people collaborating with you. Did that sound like a lecture? I don't mean but it's maybe some insight into the inner workings of working with the creatives. And then lastly, the last red flag is that you don't have a budget for an effective brand launch. We did a rebranding for a company that it was so cool. It was such a great before and after, but they didn't have the budget to get a new sign for the building. They had just invested in, I don't remember, a hideous amount of brochures, 10,000 brochures. They wanted to use their old brochures, but they put the new logo on their stationery and the business card and their website. And I just said, you're on your website looking this way, and someone walks past your shop. They're not going to make that connection. You have two different faces. It was a very weak brand launch.
Wow, yeah.
So we have a tool, and we can send that to you. It's a budget calculator. And if you're looking at a rebranding, or even if you've gone through it and you want to evaluate, we have a launch checklist. I'll get to that too, those tools that can really help you with this. It doesn't have to be super expensive. Like, you don't have to build a new website. That's digital. Your digital assets, you can change overnight. Change up a color on your website, at least for now. And then there's a cool graphic that you can create to say, hey, we're changing, this is coming. So if you're a larger brand, or you're more spread out like Baker College would be, yeah, you're not going to change everything overnight. Benito's couldn't change all of its signs overnight. So you develop a plan. This is what we're going to do, phase 1, phase 2. But you want to make sure you're able to do those in those phases.
Linda, I'm sorry to interrupt here, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. We have about 5 minutes left. I just want to make sure if there was any questions that we do still have time to get to those as well.
Okay, good. So we've been pausing too. I'm hoping people have those questions. We'll just run through this because we did say we'll look at working with a design resource. It's pretty much just like you're going to be doing with any other vendor or collaborator. How long have they been doing this? Their portfolio, look at their style. Do you like it? Is it clean? Is it sophisticated? Talk to people that have worked with them before. What is their back and forth like? Did they drop off the map? The cost of value. So how people slice and dice branding is different. What are the deliverables? What will you end up with? And what is the process? What is the time that you expect to invest? And then your gut check. How do you feel? You need to be able to have a collaborative working relationship where you trust them to push back on you and not just be yes men. Oh, you want a leaf on top of a lady's head? Okay, we'll do that for you. But they'll be honest with you, and you can be honest with them.
In the
So
process.
good, yes, that good collaboration.
Skip the process, Linda. That's pretty important. They should walk you through on exactly what is going to take place and what kind of time frame you should be. You know, like Pete said, I mean, it took 3 to 6 for the basics, but it's still rolling out. I mean, if they came in, the leadership were told that it's going to take 2 months, there's going to be a disparity there and a frustration down the road. So that needs to be pretty clear.
Mm-hmm. Right. I did skip through those. Yeah, and the deliverables, that's the identity system, and we talk about that more in session 2. So any thoughts on this? Any questions on anything else that you might have?
Wow.
I have a question for you guys. What would you recommend if you kind of mentioned not having the budget for it? What would you recommend for, you know, if you didn't have time, you know, the budget to go into a full rebrand? Is there any alternatives, or is it just all or nothing?
I think if you map it out, Alex, look at the map, say we need to rebrand, but we don't have a budget for a sign or to redo the vehicles or whatever. If there's big outlays, then map that out 6 months to a year down the road. You can phase it in. You just want to have, like this other client, he lost sight. He didn't change up the sign. He reused his old brochures. They're still giving out old brochures because they didn't want to waste the money on it. So you have to kind of look at, okay, even if we don't have a full as big a budget as we think we need, we can phase that over the next year. As long as you have that target time, you know, 18 months max, but you want to phase it in. It takes time.
So to answer that question too, I'll just skip ahead to this. We have this checklist. We can send it out to you if you're interested. And we tell people to put, this is like most places where you could put your logo, where you would need an update. So you can put a 1 or a 2 in front of them, time out your internal launch and your external launch, and then what's a priority. And then this is what that budget calculator, it's just an Excel spreadsheet. It's got these same things on it. So you can say, all right, what would new signage be? What would new vehicles to redo our fleet? What would that be? We would do that in phase 2. So you can map it out. We have a call that came in last summer, and they really wanted to do a rebranding, but they've got 8 trucks, they've got signage, and the CFO said, you know what? We're going to wait. We're going to wait till 2021. And I think that makes sense to do it that way.
Great question, Alex.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. I will say we are at our time here. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Does anyone have any final questions for Bill and Linda before we close up today?
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate it. And we're looking forward to our next session for Designing Your Brand on Wednesday, May 19th from 9 to 10 a.m. Just so everyone knows, we will automatically register everyone for that. So if you are able to join us, don't worry, you will get the registrations for that. Look forward to seeing everyone in a couple weeks.